Well, due to the accident, the rescue officer has assigned specific jobs to the firefighters responding to the call. These jobs include, but are not limited to, tasks such as stabilization of the vehicle, scene safety, patient assessment with the EMS crew, extrication directions, and in most cases, we assign a safety officer. Upon arrival, the fire crews are looking for assistance from the police department and the Goshen Fire Company Fire Police to control the flow of traffic and keep onlookers back. It's very important to protect our rescuers as they perform their extrication duties. As the crews step off the apparatus, many things have to happen before any work can begin. All assigned jobs come into play as the officers begin the scene size up. As the rescue teams start their specific jobs, we can now see that the rescuers stabilize the vehicle to ensure patient and rescue team safety. Many times the cars involved in the accident may not be in park, may still be running, and could roll away, which presents a danger to the victims and to the rescuers. You see here where the firefighters have applied chalk blocks to stabilize the vehicle and to prevent it from moving or rolling. We also begin to evaluate patient safety. We need to know how many victims are involved, how badly are they hurt, and will we need additional resources? Do we need to call paramedics, additional ambulances? All of this is determined during the initial scene size up. We also evaluate the scene to make sure that there aren't any dangerous electrical wires, telephone poles down, any civilians that may be in the way, or if the accident involves a building. After we have done the stabilization and scene size up, extrication can begin. Firefighters begin to remove window glass so that we can gain access to the patient. You'll see that the patient is covered in a blanket so that the flying glass doesn't injure them. One firefighter is using a sawzall on the windshield to cut the glass so that we can remove the vehicle roof. We also use spring-loaded center punches to break the glass on the doors and on the back of the car. Firefighters are busy setting up the extrication equipment. We have tools called spreaders that are used to pop the doors, and we also have hydraulic tools called cutters that are used to cut the windshield and side window posts. While the rescuers are working, the EMTs are inside and outside the vehicle to stabilize the patient. We're very cautious of anyone having a neck injury, so we apply a neck collar and we hold the head still while the rescuers work on the vehicle. One firefighter is using hydraulic spreaders on the passenger door in order to spread the door and pop it open so that we can gain access to the patient. These hydraulic rescue tools are extremely powerful and can bend and open virtually any vehicle door. You'll see all of the firefighters are wearing personal protective equipment. They have all of their turnout gear on, their helmets, their safety glasses, their heavy coats, bunker pants, and their protective boots. They're all wearing gloves, and now because of COVID, they're also wearing surgical masks to protect themselves and to protect the patient. The firefighters continue to work to open the door, remove the glass, and prepare to cut the roof from the vehicle. All this work is being done so that we can safely, carefully remove the patient from the automobile. Goshen Fire Company has a fully equipped heavy rescue vehicle which carries all of this specialized equipment for vehicle rescue. Once the firefighter is done using the spreaders to open the door, they're now using cutters to slice through the lock on the door and enable the door to be fully opened. Now that the lock has been cut, they're able to swing the door open, and they'll actually start to cut the door hinges so that we can completely remove the door from the vehicle. The EMTs continue to monitor the patient. They reassure the patient. They continue to talk to the patient to make sure that they've discovered all of the injuries that the patient may have. They'll do a complete exam of the patient while they're in the car, so they'll be able to communicate that information to the doctors and nurses at the trauma center so that the patient can be treated as quickly and as appropriately as possible once they arrive at the hospital. Firefighters are continuing to work on the door. They have cut the final hinge and now are able to carry the door away from the vehicle, and that allows us full side access to the patient. They are now starting to cut the windshield posts so that we will be able to remove the roof and continue to stabilize the victim and remove them from the vehicle without injuring them further. The goal of any vehicle extrication is to make sure that we are able to identify the injuries that the patient may have, stabilize the injuries, and not cause any additional harm to the patient. Essentially, what we are doing is removing parts of the car away from the patient, and then we will be able to slip them out of the car easily onto a stretcher and transport them safely to the hospital. As the extrication continues, they're removing the rear passenger door. They'll carry that away from the vehicle and cut the center post next to the patient. Highly specialized and very powerful rescue tools are designed to do exactly what they're doing now. Cut through parts of the automobile that are needed to access the patient so that we can safely remove them from the wrecked vehicle. As you see, as they work with these heavy tools, you see the vehicle is not moving at all. That is because of the stabilization that was done in the very beginning. The car isn't rocking or vibrating. It's very steady, and that's important so that we do not further injure the patient. The rescuers are using 2 cutters. We carry multiple sets of each tool so that we can work simultaneously on both sides of the vehicle. Once they have completed their cuts on the window posts, they will move the roof back and we'll have full access to the patient. The firefighters of the Goshen Fire Company train frequently on vehicle rescues. As the firefighters make their final cuts on the roof, firefighters are standing by to lift the roof and move it out of the way so that it does not injure the patient. Now all of the cuts have been completed. You'll see the firefighters lift the roof and start to move it out of the way. Now that the final cuts have been made, the firefighters are now moving the roof away. And you'll see that they have now full access to the patient. An EMT in the back seat continues to hold the patient's head to make sure that it doesn't move and doesn't injure the patient any further. As they prepare to remove the patient, they move a backboard to the car and they slide it in on the seat underneath the patient. They'll begin to rotate the patient towards the backboard, carefully lowering them to the backboard and removing them from the vehicle. They have moved the backboard to the car. They slide it onto the seat underneath the patient. You'll see the EMTs start to rotate the patient towards the backboard, lowering them down very carefully. Once they are secure to the backboard, they will then move the patient to the stretcher They will be completely strapped in so they cannot move. And then they will be transported on the stretcher and into the back of the ambulance for further evaluation and treatment. You see the backboard has now been placed on the ambulance stretcher. They will begin to secure the patient with straps to make sure that they are safe and secure and at no risk of any further injury. And they will begin to transport the patient by stretcher to the back of the ambulance. The entire time they are stabilizing and working on this patient, they are talking to the patient. They're getting feedback on how they feel, what might be injured, their level of consciousness, getting a lot of useful information which will be communicated to the staff in the emergency room, and that will help them determine the proper treatment for this patient, and hopefully a successful recovery from their injuries. They are now applying what we call head blocks to the backboard that will help to stabilize the patient's head and neck, prevent it from twisting, turning, or aggravating any injuries that they may have suffered during the collision. The patient is now loaded and secured on the stretcher. They raise the stretcher to full height and begin to walk the patient carefully to the back of the ambulance.